Hi, my name is Kelly, and I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to share with you a little bit today about the importance of having a daily practice. I am a Gemini, and this Gemini has a really hard time sometimes staying in her bodysuit. And it has been a constant challenge for me through the years. And I have a very, very active brain, which most Geminis do. And because of this, I have really had to hone in my practice so that I stay present and grounded in the reality within which I live. And we each have different circumstances in our lives. We each have different realities. Although right now, the majority of us are living a very similar reality. We're being quarantined. We're in a situation that wasn't necessarily one of our choosing, but now that we're a few weeks into this, we are beginning to establish a new routine, a new norm, because the old norm will never be back. It will be new for us this point forward. So what a perfect opportunity we have in front of us to really continue to hone in our practice. Maybe you already have established a practice, or maybe you're realizing with all this time on your hands perhaps, or that you need to have a practice, or because of all the noise in your space you need to have a practice because maybe you're a mother with a young family and a husband or a partner that you're caring for, or you're each caring for each other. But regardless of that, you're in a situation now that has a higher energy frequency happening. And so even more than ever now, I think the practice, a daily practice of grounding and just coming in, is even more and more important. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that on social media. We're seeing that on meditation groups that are going online, or prayer circles that are happening. And those are all spectacular, spectacular things. And I couldn't say enough about those opportunities. If you see one that resonates with you, absolutely participate. Even if it's your first time, there's nothing, I mean, what else could happen? There could be a vibrational shift within you that you realize, wow, okay, this is important stuff. And you may do your work completely solitary, and that's absolutely fine. I'm very much of a recluse. So this environment that we're in is not a huge shift for my daily life, but I realize overarchingly that the majority of the world it is. And I'm also by myself, so I don't have a family that I'm caring for, so I don't have a lot of the external noise. I just have the noise in my own mind, which is what led me to my daily practice. So I'd like to share with you a little bit about what I've established over the years. It's taken a long time to really kind of ground into it, and by no means does my daily practice make for easy days every day. It doesn't always happen that way. But what it has allowed me to recognize is when I haven't practiced what I'm accustomed to practicing, I find myself stepping out of alignment, or I find that I'm getting triggered in a different way, or energetically, I'm just really out of balance. So over the years, I've begun to recognize, especially over the last probably 6 months, how important that practice really is. And I've become much more consistent in it. And my practice actually starts at the very, very beginning of the day at dawn, when I am just beginning to stir, when my consciousness is beginning to come back into this reality. So what happens for me is, first of all, I recognize that perhaps I've been dreaming, and I want to capture as much as I can of that dream. So I try to make mental notes along my waking process if there's something that I want to journal about later, or as soon as I actually come fully back into my body. So right away, when I'm beginning to realize that I'm coming into my consciousness, I actually begin to acknowledge my body first. And when my mind becomes present, I go right to my toes and I wiggle my 10 digits. And I'm like, this may sound kind of silly, but it helps me ground. I'm wiggling my toes and I'm saying, gosh, thank you for being here, toes. Thank you for your service. Thank you for getting ready to hit the ground running. And I'm moving my ankles, preparing them for the day. And it doesn't necessarily have to be actual moving, but mentally, energetically, I'm focusing on that part of my body, of my waking process. And I actually work myself, work energetically all the way up my body. So I go, like I said, my toes, my feet, my ankles, my legs, my knees. At this stage in the game, I'm giving my knees lots of loving because, I got a long way yet to go. And then I come up to my pelvis. And once I reach my pelvis, I'm going to start working with my chakras. And of course, I'm going to start working with my root chakra first. I'm just giving it a little bit of energetic rev, see how things are feeling, making sure it's rotating in the right direction and that it's clear. And I actually move right on up. I go up to the solar plexus, take a look, see how I'm feeling, up into the sacral. And when I get to the heart, that's where I actually spend a little bit more time. I want to be fully present with my heart. I want to know how my heart's feeling. And often I may bring my hand up to my heart. And just, gosh, it's making me kind of moist in my eyes. Just think about it, just to let her know that I hear her, I feel her, and I'm super grateful for the relationship that I have with my heart. I listen closely to what my heart has to say. So tapping in energetically to the doorway here, which there is a doorway to the heart, is one of the priorities I have as I wake up my body. So I spend a little bit of love here on my heart. If I feel any heaviness, I begin to recognize where might that heaviness be coming from. Maybe it was an experience I had the day before, or maybe it's a memory that I'm pulling in, and I want to reconcile that memory um, and and reconciliation. Acknowledge the memory would be more of the term to use. Acknowledge the memory, but then let it go. It's served its purpose, and I need to move forward. I don't want to move back. I want to move forward. So give my heart a moment to share her voice, and then I go on up to the throat chakra. And that's something I really have to work on as well. I spent a little bit more time kind of fine tuning that area, and kind of clearing the cobwebs, if you will, cobwebs that have been there for years, lifetimes perhaps, working through that. And then up to the third eye, and on up to the crown chakra. I think if we are aware of our energetic windows through our chakra system and what goes well beyond just the physical chakras, then we open ourselves up to possibilities. I also, in the context of that, ask that only the energy that serves my highest and greatest good work with me throughout the day, throughout any moment in time. I call it my A team. I bring my A team to the table, and I'm like, okay, here we go. We're off and running for the day. Please help me see what I need to see. Help me recognize a message perhaps in the wind, whatever the case may be. Maybe it's a prayer. Maybe at that point in time I recite a prayer, or you may recite a prayer. Whether or not it's a passage from the Bible, or a prayer your mom used to share with you, or a poem your dad used to read, whatever the context is. I think to energetically ground into the day with a prayer and acknowledgement of an ancestor. I often will say, thank you, Mom, for guiding me through these days of troubled times, whatever the case may be. So that's truly how I start my day. And that may take just a few moments in time. I kind of get myself ready, and then I'm up and I'm beginning my day. So after I've had a little bit of time, kind of getting my morning started, I typically will sit for about 30 minutes. And that 30-minute time is in the corner of a couch. And I have a dog who will curl up right beside me, and we will sit there in relative silence. I'm doing breath work and meditation. Sometimes I will play some music on a phone app that I have, or I will listen to a meditation and then through my phone directly. That is a guided meditation. And for 30 minutes, I just come really fully into my body. Now that I've been up and around, walking, physically active, kind of beginning to framework what my day is, I'm ready to sit down and prepare for what the rest of the afternoon or the morning is going to look like. So that 30 minutes just kind of allows me to, again, to anchor a little bit more fully into my day and my body, and see if there's any messages that might come in for me through my prayer, through my prayer work, through my intention setting. I also keep a small altar. I have a very small space. So it used to be that I had a very large altar, but I've learned to consolidate a little bit based on that. And that altar is constantly shifting. It's shifting based on the tools that I might feel inclined to work with. There may be crystals, there could be dowsing rods, there might be a rune, there might be a Bible that I have that I've picked up and that I need to look at. It could be a book that I want to pull a quote from. It could be a box of matches that reminds me of my mom. So I guess the point is that an altar can be something very simple, something that you can put your intention to. So typically I will visit that. I may light some sage. I may burn some Palo Santo, just whatever is moving me in that moment that I'm sitting in front of my altar, standing in front of it. Just kind of tenderly looking at it and deciding what I want to look at for that day. I also will do, in that practice of the altar work, I'll also do certain things for doorways or windows that are happening, like a new moon or full moon and things of that nature. So again, this practice just allows me to ground, really kind of come into my body and stay in my body. And I have to do this periodically throughout the day. So if I feel myself stepping out, which happens a lot, I pull myself back in, and pulling myself back in can be just stepping outside for a breath of fresh air. I do a lot of work on my computer, but I also have an opportunity to be out a lot as well, walking the dog, or just I'm on acreage, so I'm very fortunate in that capacity. But throughout the day, I'm just consistently present with what the messages are or what I'm possibly being triggered by. Sometimes I forget, absolutely, and it's at night or even a few days later I recognize where I was out and where I needed to come back in. But then it comes to my evening practice. So recently, really more recently, with the onset of our current restraining energies that we're in, I've really been guided to sit in complete silence. And that's not hard for me. And I realize that could be hard for a lot of people, and I recognize that. For me, that's not difficult because I exist in a lot of silence anyway, outside of the noise and the conversations in my mind. But for about an hour, sometimes 2 hours in the evening, I will sit in complete silence. And in that particular situation, I'm very aware of everything around me. I have a very set routine, grounding my feet on the floor, how my back is placed, and everything else, and literally sitting in silence and just kind of at first kind of going through the day in my mind a little bit and letting the energy of the day kind of settle in so I can be complete with it. And then after I feel like I'm complete with whatever has taken place for the day, then I feel like I can expand myself, my energetic being, for my dream cycle, for my nightly ritual, climbing into bed and just letting the rest of the world's issues or challenges, or my challenges or whatever, be absorbed, and hopefully I wake with renewed clarity. That's my prayer for clarity, is at night to, I have a myriad of people outside of the world, because I'm always embracing the world, but I have a myriad of people that I touch on, making sure that, my loved ones are safe and keep them happy and healthy. I should say healthy right now. So I'm tapping in on that. And then I have this energetic prayer that I say for the collective. And then I allow myself to integrate and go into the rest period. And during that rest period, I can have a very active dream cycle or what have you. And then the cycle just, starts again in the morning. That's my routine. It is, by all accounts, not a perfect routine. If there's not such things as perfect, but it works for me. And it has taken a long time for me to realize the importance of the practice. And during this time, I just think it's an opportunity for all of us, if we're not in a daily practice, and a daily practice could just be 5 minutes of journaling. And I should say that during my morning practice, my 30-minute practice is typically when I do journaling, and often that will be specific to the meditation or the journey that I might have just gone on myself right then, or it could be a memory of a dream or encapsulating the dream. I also keep a dream journal by my bed, and that dream journal really is it's kind of like a notepad that just ends up with chicken scratch on it. Sometimes symbols or a funky drawing or a letter or something, just anything that I can, in my half conscious state, just trigger the memory of the dream. It could be an egg, it could be a flower, it could be a bird, it could be really just truly scribbles, and typically I can pull it back in to journal about it. So I appreciate your time, and I'm saying prayers for all of us, that we walk with grace, that we are filled with love and compassion for what everybody is going through. And I also want to share that during these times, neurologically, our bodies are trying to integrate an energy in a situation that we're completely unfamiliar with as a collective. And to allow yourself some space to process and recognize that decisions aren't necessarily easy, and moving forward isn't necessarily easy. And if you feel stuck right now, that's okay. And then hopefully in time, as we discover what our new norm will be, we'll all be able to step into a new resonance, a new way to walk in this world. And I think that's what this is all about, an opportunity for us to create a new cadence in our life. So I just wanted to leave this conversation with a quote. And this is from Seneca. It says, "No person has the power to have everything they want, but it is in their power not to want what they don't have, and to cheerfully put to good use what they do have." And right now, what we do have is an opportunity to make a great change for ourselves, for the world. So I think this is, as we all know, unprecedented time, and I am sending everybody my best.